Ninjago has gone on for a really long time, and 13 years later, I'm sure many people are wondering, has it gone on for too long, and is LEGO milking Ninjago? Now, this is a question I've seen a lot in the community and even in my own comment section, and I think it's really interesting. So, to find the answer, we first gotta understand what it means for a show to go on for too long. After some research, I found a couple of key things that are in common between shows that have gone on for too long. Usually, a dead giveaway that a show has gone on for too long is when the stories become boring, repetitive, and mostly unoriginal. The producers and writers get tired of taking risks and just want to stick to the formula that makes them the most money. Most of the time, that's the biggest problem in my opinion, but there are some other giveaways. For example, when writers completely misunderstand characters, and sometimes even when they over rely on CGI. The main thing to notice here is when writers and producers generally veer away from good storytelling to focus on other things like spectacle or just pushing their own agendas. So the key question here is LEGO actually focusing on making Ninjago the best it can be, or is it just seeing Ninjago as a way to sell toys? But before we get into that, we have another problem to address, that being that only 3% of you guys are subscribed. Seriously, these videos take a lot of time to make, so if you could subscribe, that would be great. Alright, back to the video. I think that most people making this argument are referring to the 11-minute era. Despite getting some great seasons in the Wild Brain era, like Master of the Mountain or Seabound, in my opinion, this era was mostly a jumbled mess. Seasons would be wildly different from each other and were only connected by the thinnest of connections, like the Venstone buyer plot that was only briefly touched upon in some seasons, so I can't really consider it to be a connection at all. Now, this isn't bad per se, but I, like many fans, did feel like LEGO was kind of dragging out Ninjago a little bit. I mean, if you asked me this question during the Wild Brain era, my answer would probably have been yes. It just felt like LEGO was stumbling along, making random season after season just to have enough source material for sets. So, is that it? Is the answer yes? Well, fortunately, folks, we are in a new era, and I'm very happy to say that a lot of my problems, at least structure wise, with the 11-minute era, have been completely fixed by Dragons Rising. For one, I feel like the writing is just a lot better in Dragons Rising. I mean, I feel like we've gotten more character arcs for different ninja in Dragons Rising than we've gotten in all of the Wild Brain era, and all of them have been pretty great so far. The choice to make Dragons Rising an interconnected story is just so genius, and it means that the show actually has a direction and isn't wandering around aimlessly. It's also clear that the writers aren't afraid to try new things, like making one of the main protagonists evil, or even shifting the status quo with cataclysmic events. And I mean, if the show is branching out, trying new things instead of sticking to a tried and tested model for profit, then doesn't that kind of debunk the idea that LEGO is milking Ninjago? Not to mention that Dragons Rising is incredibly popular among fans in the community, and I think that Ninjago is in a great place. So, now coming to my final answer, is LEGO milking Ninjago? In my opinion, no. I've seen this argument all over the internet, even in like YouTube comments, as I've said before, and honestly, I just find it kind of annoying. Most of the people saying this are older fans who've just kind of grown out of the TV show, and I mean, if that's you, that's perfectly fine, but there's still a lot of Ninjago fans out there, so please don't make the experience worse for any of them just because you don't like the show anymore. Ultimately, whatever your opinion be respectful and kind because we all like the same thing.